be honest with you, those who have a complaint about it, they have the right to complain. It's offensive. And like I said earlier, it would be as if somebody came of a different culture and took some black athletes and then wanted to call them the Richmond Darkies. That's how I feel about it. It's offensive. And we would jump up. So why all of a sudden are we just going to put down what we feel because it doesn't affect us personally? Yeah, it does. Because what's next? If you allow this, then how much more do you allow? All they got to do, at the same time, keep the revenue dollar back. One game. Even if it's just one game, they'll feel the effects of it.
Well, to be quite frank, it might sound a little controversial because like I said, I'm not a Redskins fan, but for people that are Redskins fans who are good football fans, I mean, they know the history of football, I don't think that they should change it simply because if that's the case, then a whole lot of mascot names should be changed. I think that they should be able to keep the name because traditionally, ever since the NFL started, everybody affiliated the Redskins with Washington. So if for that reason, I think they should be able to keep the name. I don't think from that perspective, there's no race issue.
Well, I feel like the Redskin name is like an honorary type deal. The nation's capital is like an honorary, like it's honoring the Redskin, like Indians of some, sorts. But if it's affecting people in a negative way, like a racist, kind of a thing, I think that maybe they should consider it. But as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't change it.
They had this name for 80 years.
Over 80 years,
Over 80 years, and all of a sudden, I see no sense in it.
I don't think they need to change it, to be honest with you. What I'm saying? They need to just get over it, what I'm saying? It's not a racist thing, it's just a name of a football team.
Hello, and thank you for joining Around Town with Garry Callis. I guess we've already heard what everyone's saying around town, so let me introduce you to my illustrious guests. Coach Leroy Bo Jones and Reverend Willie Woodson. So fellas, Doctor Reverend Willie Woodson, excuse me. Yes. So I guess you've already heard what everyone's saying around town about this whole Redskin thing. So gentlemen, do y'all think they need to change the name or what?
Well, basically, it's a personal thing. Realizing that heritage means a lot, and we all basically know how America got to be America. And with the intent that the football team wasn't even in the archives, they were trying to get a country up and running. Meanwhile, 4 or 5 decades later, we come up with this thing called the National Football League, and they were naming teams, and they named teams not by the initiative of race, culture. They just named teams. Someone said Redskins, someone said Dallas, talking about the Cowboys, and someone said Eagles. So the name was not distorted to, to offend a culture, people. It was a name. Now, I don't know how we looked and we researched how they got the name Redskins, and it wasn't, I didn't find it. I know there is a name that offends me is Tar Heels, North Carolina Tar Heels. And the reality that this was a discriminatory event, that they not only hung the individual, but they tarred him. I mean, we talking about throwing tar down on him. So no one have indicated about changing that name, but on the Redskins as a football team, what you think, Wilkie?
Well, I think first of all we have to take into consideration who are the plaintiffs, who are the ones who are concerned about the name in and of itself.
Well, first off, there's a group of progressive Indians that are out in the that are out in the Midwest and out in Arizona, New Mexico. And these Indians are progressive. They are educated, they've got money, and now they are the ones that are really coming back now saying that this Redskin name is offensive to them. Okay, so basically that's where we are. These people are saying, hey, this is offensive, we don't like it. They've already lobbied Congress to come up with their way to change it. And in all reality, if the name of the team was to be called, for example, the Richmond Negroes, and we had a big afro on the side of the helmet, you know, I'm sure that a whole lot of other folks would have been saying, you know what, this is something that should have been changed a long time ago. Even though this is a subject that we're talking about now, it's not as though it just popped on the table. This is something that's been going on for a long time. So again, Brother Wilson, I mean, what is your take on this thing?
Actually, again, when you think of the football team, which is a franchise, you take in consideration of those who support the team because the Redskins represent their team. If these persons are not offended, if these persons feel that it is not negative or have a negative impact on others, I think we need to give them some consideration, give them some thought. You know, my mind goes back to the mosque in Richmond. When they initially began to discuss changing the name of the mosque to something else, I said, well, because a few folk feel that the name mosque is offensive, should we change the name? And I was in opposition. So my issue with the Redskins, those persons who are involved with the team, those persons who are invested in the team, I think we should hear their voice, listen to what they have to say about the name.
Well, it's a personal matter. The name itself, Redskins, shouldn't be offensive. But when you are talking to the Native Americans, a few of them are saying that we are offended by that. Now, this isn't a name that just happened a few years ago or a few decades ago. This is a name that some people live by. I mean, we are talking about a name that seen on cars, homes, boats, and you could go on and on and on. And it was not offensive a few years ago. But now the people, the Native Americans, and I'm trying to think of his name, but he himself have stirred up this controversy about the name. Now look at all of the outstanding, look at all of the great Native Americans that performed at a very high level that was not offended by it. And then one of them whom we can always look at played football for the Rams. One of them coached, and it was not a name that was offensive.
You know what? Now, here's the thing. On a historical line, the whole Redskin thing started back in 1932 because initially the Braves was a baseball team in Boston before they had a chance to move to Atlanta.
Okay.
So what they did was they wanted to make the baseball teams and the football teams basically have the same type of mascot. So they were using the Braves for the baseball team in Boston. So the football team was supposed to be the Boston Braves initially. So that was 1932. So in 1937, they moved to Washington and then later changed the name to the Redskins. Right? So since 1937 to now, 80 years, it's been the Redskins, and now again, like you're saying, we have a progressive group of Indians that are saying they're finding this thing offensive. So my question is,
but what is offensive by the name Redskins?
See now, and to the Indians, and I've had a chance to actually go out and doing around town interviewing people. We've had a chance to talk to some actual Indians about the subject. Now, I would love to have had them on the panel, but they didn't want to come. But the whole thing was, one group said they didn't care. It didn't matter to them one way or another. But there was another group that looked at this thing as being on the same level as the N-word. they saw being called a redskin as being a stereotype. They saw it as being offensive, and they thought it was something that should be just completely taken off the table, just as offensive as we saw the N-word. Now, I personally...
But you can't, not that you can, but it is not justifiable use of the N-word as compared to the Redskins. Now, when we look at the history of the N-word, oh my God, now that is very offensive. And somehow, some way, the rap world used it so much that it watered it down, that other races felt as though that they could use the N-word as a deterrent. Right. All right. But now, you talk about Redskins. Redskins was an Indian. It was. Now, but do we allow for our intelligence to be so narrative that we look at it as an offensive word?
But see, the whole thing is not so much as what I think, what you think, because I'm sure that, again, there were times when the N-word was being used by other people. They weren't offended by using the word, calling us that.
No.
So now, in retrospect, now we are using the word red skin. It's not offensive to us, but it's offending somebody else.
Yeah,
so,
but I think you're taking out of context, because when the N-word was used by others, they knew that it was offensive. They were intentional in having some psychological and emotional abuse, damage done to the persons who were addressed. But when you think of the Redskins, just like the other professional football teams, they all have mascots. Our high school, no offense, Armstrong, the Wildcats, Maggie Walker, the Dragons. Greatness. And so mascots is just another way we as human beings attempt to relate and connect with a name,
right,
with a team, with an entity, with an organization. And from my perspective, I do not think that it was offensive, not only originally, but you have to take in consideration those folks who support the team. Where are they on this issue? Because you always have some for, some against. You have some some anti.
You know, but we take a look at looking at the fan base. Of course, the fans are going to say they're hardcore Redskin fans. Coach, I know you are a hardcore Redskin fan, and you know, I personally am a Cowboy fan. Now, to me, I don't care whether we beat up on the Redskins, the Warriors, the Braves. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But see, the thing is, we have to understand that the logo, the mascot, is the problem. You see, the mascot isn't the problem. See, the problem is the actual name Redskin. See, that's the name. And my thing is, see, at this point, it's not when Dan Snyder's going to change the name. I mean, if he's going to change, it's going to be when, because now that the Patent and Trade Commission, they've gotten involved, and they're not going to allow them to maintain that name any longer. They're not going to back it. 50 congressmen have already contacted the Redskin organization asking them to change the name.
But I think that's okay. That's okay in terms of the congressmen getting involved. It's okay for U.S. patent entity to get involved. I think what's important is that the owner of the Redskins, as well as the supporters of the team, have open ears and are willing to sit at the table with openness to at least discuss it, to at least have some type of dialogue regarding this issue rather than being closed-minded. And I think that's what's important.
Well, Dan Snyder has come right off the top saying that he is not going to change the name. He's not going to change the name. All right.
That's what he says right now.
That's what he says right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and finish the discussion.
Urban J Productions provides all of your videography needs for any occasion or project. We specialize in TV shows, weddings, commercials, documentaries, behind-the-scenes footage, music videos, interviews, corporate events, photo shoots, baby showers, sweet 16s, birthday parties, fashion shows, band reunions, and highlight reels. You name it, we can do it. Contact us today, 1-267-218-2181. We're available nationwide. We look forward to capturing your most cherished memories. Irvin J. Productions.
Welcome back. Let's get back to the conversation. I tell you what, this whole Redskin thing is serious. And before we went to break, we were just talking about again. I was just saying that it's not a matter of when it's going to happen. I know it's going to have to. I mean, again, once you start saying things and doing things that offend people, sooner or later a change has to take place. It has to.
Well, I think it's not necessarily to offend people. I think that the Native Americans picked up on something that can be controversial and money-making at the same time. It will take at least 15 years before a decision will be made. And when a decision is made, think of the money that Dan Snyder will make, because everybody, whatever they come up with, you got to buy new apparel,
right?
For it, sponsorship. You're talking $1 billion turnaround.
So the thing is though, then why hold on to it? I mean, but then why hold on to it?
Why hold on to it?
Again, it's just as you were saying, by changing the name to something like the Washington Warriors or the Braves or whatever the name is. You just say basically what you're saying. If that did happen, then they would stand to make more money because new jerseys, new endorsements, you know.
Yeah, but it's deeper or larger than money.
Yeah, but this guy dug his heels down and said, "I will never change the name."
But that's what
politically, that's what he should say.
See, that's what he is saying.
He has so many supporters supporting the name. That's what he should say. Now that brings on a verbal and political fight in Congress,
which is a timeline issue.
See, I think it's so crazy because if we sit back and look at how they handled the whole thing out in LA with the Clippers, when something racist came up, they came in quick, they came in fast.
Now you're doing something different.
That's different.
But see, the thing is it's different to us because that affected us. So now we're looking at a situation that affects another group of people. Does it make it less important?
No, I disagree. I disagree in the sense that since I've been born and before I was born, the N-word has always been offensive when used by others, and even when we used it out of context. It has always been offensive. Here, after 80 years, the name Redskin is offensive. So I think it's just a little different in terms of the context in which the N-word has been used, as well as the Redskins.
Okay.
I do believe in due process, and so the owner has made a decision for the present time.
Yeah, because
it's not going to change.
Because the Wizards went from the Bullets. We talking Bullets.
Right, they were being offensive. They were being offensive. They said people in Washington was going to kill everybody. Right.
Said they was killing everybody. They said, okay, we need a more settled name, Wizards.
Right, Wizards. But you have to think now, that tradition with the Bullets, that went on for a long time.
A long time.
The Bullets was on for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, for all those Bullet fans to say, okay, it's going to be the Wizards. That was a hard pill to swallow for those fellas. You know, that was a hard, you know?
Of course, and we could go one step further to the Knickerbockers. They had to drop the Knickerbockers because that was offensive. So it's just the Knicks name.
Right.
Now we have to be, and this is just me speaking now. This is just my opinion.
Talk to us.
We have to be ready for change.
Right.
See, and they found a loophole in the Redskins, and at some point in time, we are going to have to be acceptable to change, because change can be good, and change can be bad. But the Native Americans I heard their interview. They haven't given a reason why the name is offensive.
And then again, you have different camps among the Native Americans.
But
this name,
you know, it's funny though. I guess everybody was listening to some of the clips that was coming out with people saying around town. You know, one of the guys was saying basically the same thing. This name has been going on for 80 years. What's the big deal? But I haven't seen any Indians saying anything.
Anything.
Right? Now I know when it comes to the Hispanics, a few years ago, they went ahead and went on strike. We all felt that.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about a group of Indians. I guess nobody's really having any picket signs. I guess I saw a few picket signs a few weeks ago, but there's no real picket signs. There's no lines. They're not, boycotting anything.
You know, we're using a term that is offensive. Indians. They call us Native Americans. Again, time. Again,
Native
change.
Americans. Yeah.
Again, culture. Because when we were coming up, Native America was not a part of our vocabulary. It was but Indian. But today, we begin to speak of Indians.
Native.
It's very offensive.
Native.
I'm a Native American.
And if they had a program to show or to institute how our American forefathers took the land and the way that they took it and how they took it was very offensive. Now, they didn't have, as the man said, they didn't have representation. So they just basically moved to the reservation. And then when they found out, man, this is inhumane. This is inhumane. 60 Minutes documented that most of them are like alcoholics, drug users, and they were dying out. And the organization, they put money into it, built them some schools, some homes, better living facilities. All right? And what was your beef then? We tried to show you a better way of living. Right?
And when you say we, who are we?
Oh, the organization that I can't talk. But they was trying to show them a better way of living. Now, for instance, for centuries, they followed the buffalo all through the Midwest. The Americans came. They needed food. They needed fur. So what they did was to kill the buffalo. They tried to herd them up, right, to make a better living facilities for the Americans. And of course, all of us have read about the fights between the Indians and on and on and on. But they were not subject themselves to cultivate civilization. Sad to say, but they did not cultivate themselves for civilization. The Americans, and African Americans were like harder in the Midwest, So this thing which they have brought about, this name changing, blacks, African Americans, and I can't call name and dates enough, they had a better life in the West.
Why did they have a better life? Because they meshed or blended with the Native Americans?
They
moved away from the root of slavery.
Yeah,
moved away from the hotbed of it over here on the East Coast.
It was a culture change, and then after they had gotten established in Texas, Waco was one. They actually owned the town. They actually owned the town. Why didn't the Indians try to establish that? Because wasn't in their nature.
Well, the funny thing is, as I've had a chance to go around town and talk to a lot of different people about this Redskin thing, and should they change the name or whatever, I've got a lot of mixed feelings. Again, as all of our viewers have had a chance to see when the show first came on and after we came back from break, they've had a chance to see what people are saying. And I think it's funny because just as we are divided here, as we're divided here, that's how most people are divided right now. They're up in the air, but at the end of the day, I think that when we sit back and look at being fair, there are a whole lot of stereotypes, names that we call each other to denote different type of ethnic groups or whatever. And if ever you use a word to describe a group of people that they find offensive, change has got to take place.
Well, the change comes with time.
Right.
And we have to be open to that movement.
Right.
Open to that process.
And what is it that is offensive about Redskins?
Well, it's almost as though a racist person could come to you and ask you, what do you find offensive about the N-word? It's just a word.
That's unfair.
And it can apply to anybody. It's not attached to any color or anything.
That is unfair.
That's not the same scenario.
But you understand, what I'm saying, though?
Yes, I'm becoming less tolerant whenever there is an issue of discrimination, be it gender, be it ethnic. They want to parallel it with the N-word. And technically, that is out of context because the N-word has been used for centuries with the intent
to be raped and put down other people. Right. Right. So I understand that. And the thing is, though, again, I understand it, I see it, but at the end of the day, another group of people, and again, whether we agree or disagree, can we see that another group of people and understand another group of people is seeing another word that they're finding offensive, and it is a team that makes a lot of money. Dan Snyder should have changed the name a long time ago rather than sticking his heels in saying that he wanted to hold on to it. Gentlemen, I'm so glad we've had a chance to have this conversation today. Viewers, I'm glad y'all had a chance to tune in and check out the show. Just as you all see right here, this Redskin thing is a serious debate, but at some point, the Redskin organizations are going to realize that they're wrong and some changes are going to have to be made. Gentlemen, I'm glad you all came, had a chance to have this conversation. And you know what, again, who says that within a few weeks we might be back at the table having this discussion again, because again, just as you always saying, that change takes time, and sooner or later that change, without question, has to occur whether we like it or don't like it. This is Garry Callis with Around Town, and I'm glad you tuned in, and thanks.
The Tanya Free and Friends Talk Show, your destination for the best in social and political straight talk, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on the heart and soul of the city, WCLM 1450 AM, streaming live on TanyaFree.com and BlackTalkRadioNetwork.com. Join the conversation Wednesdays at 2 p.m.